Alright, welcome everyone to another very memorable game of Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. And in fact, I should say games because I'll be showing two games today. These are just some really great games, and I just thought, I haven't streamed in a bit, so I thought I'd bring these to this channel. Alright, so like many of the prior streams I've done, these games were memorable, I think, because they just had some unexpected twists and turns, and without giving it away, we'll just have to wait and see what they were. But stay tuned. In general, just like to stream just great games that kind of illustrate different things. Let's get straight into it. All right, so this first game happens on the map called Highlands. And I seem to remember this map being called Rivers in the past, but it's called Highlands now. It's part of the current map pool. All right, so on Team East, we have the team, that's my team here. On the left flank here, we have Pooky Samuel, one of our returning players who you may have seen on other streams. He's playing Berbers here. On the right flank, we have Vietnamese, so Gun Rose playing Vietnamese. And then in the pocket position, we have purple here, Tarhunt playing Italians, and then yellow playing Armenians. So not exactly the typical pocket civs, but we'll just have to see how that plays out. Team West, we have on the east flank, we have the Mayans. That was the east flank there, or the right flank. On the left flank, we have Ethiopians. So two archer civs. And then in the pocket positions, we have green playing Franks, and then teal playing the Magyar. All right, so those are the civs. So a little bit more of a traditional setup on Team West, and then perhaps slightly unconventional on Team East. So this map is really interesting. It's one of my favorite right now in the map pool. And the reason why is just because it does allow for some just these choke points really allow for some interesting plays. So it could be described as being a little bit similar to Black Forest in the sense that you have these funnel points here that should be walled relatively early, 3 in total. But I think it is actually more comparable to a map like Mediterranean or Baltic, because you do have water here, and the water has a decent amount of fish on it actually. It's a bit of a mix. Of course, the water is very short, and so it does allow for transports to go over. All right, so we see already the early plays here. Team East beginning to drop some walls. There are only 3 shallows actually, with 4 players, so that does allow for even more, build up by the players. So it's not 4 entrances; it's just 3. So a couple of characteristics to maybe point out with this map is because the river is so short, it does allow players to bring troops or villages over with transports. So we may have to keep an eye on that. The other thing, of course, is because there are these shallows here, it's the only place to cross. Any army that crosses is kind of like, it's great if you can cross, but getting reinforcements, that's another question altogether, because if somebody cuts off the entrance, your army that entered could be completely exposed because you can't bring in reinforcements. So it's actually something I really like about the map. And we've had some great games on it, but we'll just have to see how that plays into this game here. All right, so I'm just going to go check the audio. And the reason why is because this is actually second time streaming this game here, because the first time I did not have the audio set up correctly. So let us go check that out. So I'll be right back, 1 moment. All right, we are back. Sorry about that, folks. And to anyone who watched the first stream, I do apologize that there was no proper audio, but seems to be working this time. So, all right, so we have I think some of our first civs here going up, our players going up to feudal age, and they are all four. First four players on Team West. So that is quite interesting here. And Teal here just about to hit feudal. So with a little bit of negotiation here, I'm agreeing to stonewall here. So usually it is a good idea to double wall, obviously because you have these are the choke points. So Team East definitely going building much more on the water than Team West. So far, each player on Team East has docks, one dock or even two in my case. Team West, none of them have docks so far. So already a very steep contrast there between the two teams. So Team West is, they mentioned earlier, they're going in for the rush. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that. All right, I'm just going to speed it up a little bit here. So far, Team East does have the advantage in terms of villager count, 25 villagers ahead. But we'll just have to watch how that develops. So I believe that is, of course, a result of the fishing boats. So I actually think that taking the fishing boats is key on this map because there are enough fish there to make it worthwhile. And I do think that whoever controls the water will eventually control the shallows as well. So like I was saying earlier, if you break through, that's fantastic. But once your army is through, if the shallows get cut off again by water, or if someone manages to wall off the breach, then yeah, good luck defeating the other side with an army that's exposed with no reinforcements. Of course, if you can drop production buildings, that's another story. So just have to see how that plays into this game here. Okay, so purple also has 2 docks, yellow 2 docks, red 1, orange 1. Our first little prick on the wall. But what's happening over here? A little bit of a larger force. So can Team East get ready for this engagement in time? We see the stone walls going up. Let us see. This is actually a very long shallows. If you see that, it's quite long. And so much longer than I think these ones over here. And here we go. Team East sees it. And unfortunately this palisade is going down quick. Everybody else seems to be booming pretty much normally, but Team East is kind of doing the heavier, was focusing on the econ boom more. Alright, so the villager that was building here was trying to drop a house. Did not work, and Team West is in the base, so they have crossed the river. And right away, Team East starts laughing. This is obviously not a good sign. Things are looking a bit rough. But what did I say earlier? You have the beginning of a fleet here, and so you have the reinforcements being attacked. Team East does have warships, but unfortunately they are in the wrong position. And on the other side, Green is putting some folks into a transport and just bringing them over. So it is the river is short enough that you can just kind of do a bit of ferry service there and get your troops or villagers across. So red taking damage here, and already things are looking kind of bad for Team East. So they went for the heavy eco. The question is now, can that economy somehow save them as they're being raided? All right. So a little bit of an interesting dynamic here. You see the two teams went for a very different style. Team West doing, of course, a classic rush. Team East trying to take advantage of the map, but so far failing. And we see yellow here. I've got a demo ship, but back home I have just dropped the barracks, just barely dropped it, but I'm otherwise completely exposed. I don't even think I have a tower enough to build a tower. Completely exposed, but to my luck, Teal just doesn't come that way, goes somewhere else. Team Red player Red continues to be under pressure. And Orange is taking hits here. So despite this raiding, Team East is still ahead in the vill count by about 7 or 6 vills. It is changing now, but still slightly ahead. So Teal just completely skipped yellow here. I am just absolutely unmolested. Dropping the second stable, hoping to help out my allies who I can see are under pressure. So I made the mistake of running directly under the town center. So yeah, Orange is definitely hurting here, but holding his own. And red is also still in business. Gray did manage to do some damage. But for better or for worse, they have not really cut the... I mean, they have cut the bill count, the deficit, quite a bit. But it's not as much as you'd expect with all this. So the entire time, Team East never fell behind in the bill count. It's kind of interesting. Alright, little reinforcements coming from yellow here. So red has kind of weathered the storm. And as I was mentioning earlier, the entrance has now been blocked off. So we did cut off the entrance from behind Team West. So they can still come over with the transports, but the entrance is no longer open. And so whatever army Team West has on this side, that's it. You know, they cannot send reinforcements anymore because the entrance is now walled off. So that is one of the downsides for the attacking side, the early rushers on this map. It's that it's great if you can break through, but can you maintain the entrance? You know, can you maintain the hole in the wall? No. Now he tries to get back through, and what's there? A house standing in his way. One glorious house there. Alright, so yellow finally coming to assist. Not much left in terms of the green army that was here. I think we might have missed it actually, but they went down. So the army from Team West has now been destroyed, and they were able to cut the deficit, but unfortunately for them, the deficit has now once again grown in the bill count. And actually, Gray's army is exposed and can't get out. It's like Moria and Lord of the Rings cannot get out. We're stuck in Moria, so kind of doing some damage, but those troops will eventually die. And we see all kinds of fishing boats, just probably slightly too many here actually for yellow, for me here. Kind of overdoing it maybe, but I was kind of panicking because I wasn't sure if I was about to lose a bunch of villagers due to the raid. And so probably overdid it a little bit. Those archers went down. And but yeah, so definitely fishing up all the fish here, which is doing a big favor for the food income of Team East. Alright, so blue continuing the pressure, but Team East remains solidly ahead, and we are now back to 20 villas ahead. Still have a military deficit, but doesn't really matter because they can't get through the walls. So that really is something about this map. It's that, you know, it kind of favors the heavy econ boomers. Oh look, there's a hole here again actually. That's kind of incredible. Whoops, I don't know how that happened. It must have been that is unfortunate. And we see here Gray rebuilding a large force of archers. So hopefully they see this in time here. That is unfortunate. Actually, it is exposed right now. So both blue and gray and teal, everyone's trying to build up. I don't think they know that this is exposed. If they hold on, can I do that? How do I do that again? It's shift right click to cycle mode. Okay. And then we do, so that's what they see. So they do not see, I guess, that this, they can't see it. And so they don't know that there's now a wide open entrance there. So we'll just have to keep our eye on that. So yeah, Team East is definitely going on for the long game. And going for the economy. And we see our first demolition ships of the game, so we will have to keep our eye open for that. And yellow is finally walling this last piece off here. So we do have some demos here, but we'll have to see if they're able to get anything done. Alright, so Team East continues to pull ahead in terms of the economy, but Team West going heavy on military. So they have some siege units here. So I think this is just an example of what happens on this map. I mean, it is a very different style of map from other types of games. And so adapting your gameplay to the map, I think that's important. Alright, we'll have to see what happens here. They see the demos, so they see it, and they run away. Alright, so they are aware of these demos, so we'll have to see how they navigate that. Are they going to drop some transports or something like that? We'll have to see. Team is continuing to expand. We have 3 TCs there, all of them. Oh, green at 4 TCs actually. So that's pretty impressive. And gray getting in a lot of upgrades, if I'm not mistaken. Taking out fishing boats. Alright, so Team West is pushing. You see they have a significant 30 unit advantage. And what's happening here? They are shooting at the demos. The demos retreat. Alright, so we'll have to keep an eye on this here. How does this play out? And what is happening? What is happening here? Is he going to pull away in time? Not so much. So, that is kind of the worst moment in the game, you could say, and blue bails. So blue has left the game. Green says WTF, and the entirety of Team West leaves because of that engagement. I had no idea it was going to cause that. But yeah, I guess the little bit of a anticlimax if you're I usually like to show kind of epic long games, but I couldn't help myself, just had to show that. So a bit of a crazy game. So guys, on this map, demos really are king. They really are just such an important part of the game. Of course, the counter to that is just having one of your own demos. Imagine you had one demo. You could take out all those demos with one demo, right? So it's just doesn't have to be over OP. So Teal is quite enraged and letting us know. Gray is letting us know as well that they're really dumb or something. We don't really know what he said here, but yeah, they kind of, I guess you could say they rage quit. So yeah, it is. That's one characteristic of the map, is that you need to find a way to cross the shallows safely. And I think the way is to always have counter demos, right? So you see the enemies building up a bunch of demos, build just a couple of your own, you scare away that whole batch of demos, because you can take out 10 demos with one demo, right? So you just need to do it until you've secured the shallows. So unfortunately, lesson learned the hard way, I guess. Hopefully these players are not too annoyed by this map, and hopefully they come back to try it again. So just a really hilarious game. Did not expect that twist at all. I really thought it was going to go, especially after that early raid. We were just, we were hurting. 3 of our players were being raided pretty bad. We never fell behind on the kill count. I did not realize that during the game. I thought that maybe we had, but we did not. So we stuck in the game, and the game continued. We managed to win. I didn't realize this, but the purple here actually built some backup walls. That's kind of interesting. I like that. Kind of some backup walls just in case the first line of defense falls. Really cheap. Meanwhile, we focus on the economy. So I think this game really does favor the, kind of like Arena. It does favor those who go for the economy, and less so those who do the early pushes. And I think this game was a perfect illustration of that. So. All right, we're just going to look at the stats really briefly, but I don't think there's too much to see. Game was obviously quite short, and that's the result of the demo ships there. And I think we already saw all the other stats. Okay, so that was the first game that I want to show you, folks. We're now going to go to the next one. This next game is definitely longer. All right. Gonna make sure this game loads here, and there it is. So I'll just pause it quickly and switch back to game. All right, so same crowd, and here we have another game. All right, folks, this game here is being played on Fortress. This has got to be one of my favorite maps as well. I think my whole team, I think we all kind of have an appreciation for this map. It seems to us, I'd say, to be a better version of the Arena map. Because Arena, it just doesn't have quite the same natural feel. There just aren't as many just natural features to the map. This map has definitely uses the map a bit better. There's more space. There's the entire corners are not covered by walls like in Arena, and so definitely has a better use of space. We also like that you start off with a castle. Kind of harkens back to I guess Regicide kind of mode. You kind of get that feeling. But the start is kind of strange. You do start off with many more bills than you normally would. I actually thought it was I was playing Empire Wars there for a second. It took me a few moments to kind of completely realize or remember what to do. All right, so I'm just going to go check the audio one more time. A little bit cautious today just because of the mishap earlier. So just one moment. Be right back, folks. All right, we are back, and back on this game. So yeah, I'm really excited to bring you folks this game. This game's actually one of the more memorable ones I've had in the recent past. There was actually another game I had wanted to stream, but unfortunately, due to the recent patch, it went out of sync before I was able to stream it. But I think this game more than compensates for that one, just because of how wild it was, how many twists and turns, how went back and forth for sure. It's a very long game, and yeah, I won't give away how it ends. I do appreciate a game, regardless of whether my team wins or not. I do appreciate a game that was close. Again, went back and forth, and where you just see some really unique things, especially when both teams use the kind of unique features of their civs. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. All right, so we have Team North here. These are our opponents. Blue is playing Italians. On the right flank, we have Mongols, pocket players. We have green playing Persians, and teal is playing the Lithuanians. Then on Team South, this is us here. We have Pooky Samuels once again here, back for another game, playing Slavs. And then we have on the right flank, Gunrose playing Vietnamese again. Pocket players, we have Tarhunt playing Berbers in yellow. And purple, that's me here playing Hindustani, one of my favorite civs. So maybe just a couple of comments to say what each civ, of course, brings to the table. For Vietnamese, of course, we have the Imperial Skirmishers. We'll have to keep an eye on how that comes in. Paper money, of course, that allows his, later on in the Imperial, allows his woodchoppers to generate gold. Of course, Shatra's elephants, they have more HP. I'll just mention this quickly here. Another thing we really like about this map, it almost feels like water compartments on like a ship. You can create these easily wall off the boundaries between the bases and also the corners. So it really allows for several compartments so that if, let's say, the first line of defense fails, there is essentially, you can use the second line of defense, and there are several compartments where you can try to contain an enemy's advance. So again, if let's say this first wall breaks, they could use this second wall, assuming they've walled this off. This whole space here, this whole space allows for rebound. So I do really like that about the map. And so we'll have to just keep our eyes on how that comes in. Did not notice those cliffs actually, but that's an interesting feature. Okay, so for Persians, we have green here playing Persians. So of course they have the Savars, anti-archer cavalry. A little bit less good against other melee units, so we'll have to just wait and see how that maybe plays in, whether green, how those units are used. Of course, they have citadels as well, which allow their castles to be, quote-unquote, shoot bullets. They basically have more attack. And then, of course, green Persians do have the goldless archer line, the Kamandaran, which is also useful for a long game. So basically their trash is pretty good if it comes to that. And then we have Italians. Of course, Italians is arguably, they have one of the better units in the game, if not one of the best units in the game, as Tarhunt would say. We do have the amazing Genoese crossbows, an anti-cavalry unit. They also have Silk Road, so this makes trade units cost minus 50%. So with a long game, if the trade comes up, that's also very useful. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. I'm kind of forgetting now if that's a unique to the Civ or a team bonus. We'll have to check that after. Anyway, they have Silk Road, so we'll see if blue takes advantage of that. And then we have Pavis, which is the foot archer upgrade, allowing their archers to be stronger. So again, very strong death ball there. Orange, they of course have the epic Boyars, very powerful unit, strong for melee battles. So again, we'll have to just keep an eye on whether that comes in. Also, cheap castles. You know, they do have the what's the name of it now again? It's called the Detonets upgrade. One of the unique units, unique upgrades of the Slavs, which allows for castles to have 40% of their cost replaced with wood. So that is a really great upgrade. So we'll have to see if Orange takes advantage of that. Of course, they also have Druzina, and then they also have good siege. And Hindustani, of course, I'm playing Hindustani here. One of my favorite civs. Of course, used to be the old Indian civ. What I really like about them is just the cheap villagers. Really allows for a nice boom, which is ideal when you're the pocket player. They have the long-range hand cannoneers and extra armor for the hand cannoneers. Grand Trunk Road allows for extra gold, which is great for a long game. Oh, I didn't see that here. Oh, he took out a monk. Excellent, well done. You did mention that, actually. Well done, Pooky, taking out the monk. And so the reason why this is important is because we have Teal here playing Lithuanians. We're all quite familiar with this. Oh, wow, that's interesting. I've never seen that before, actually. Good move. Extra access to... So he's pumping out the monks, and they are out to get the relic. So, of course, Lithuanians get extra attack to their Leitis warriors. Leitis, you will have noticed that being in the title of this stream. Have to see if those Leitis play a role in this game. They do get an extra attack for every relic up to 4, and so we'll have to keep an eye. He already has 1. We'll have to keep an eye whether or not he's able to retrieve all 4 that he needs. They also have good trash units, +2 armor and speed for the spearmen and skirmmen later on. Okay, and Hindustani, I was just going to mention just one really funny thing about them is they have, of course, together with the Persians, they have the Caravanserai, which allows for the trade units to both heal and go faster when they're in range of the Caravanserai. So we have green playing Persians, purple playing Hindustani, 2 civs that can build Caravanserai. We'll have to wait and see which of those 2 builds them and which has the then effect on the team. Okay, so we see yellow here doing a 5 TC boom. Amazing. Absolutely spectacular. Red, of course, close to the front line, a bit more conservative. Purple dropping his 4th TC now. Mongols, of course, we're all familiar with them. Cav archers fire plus 25% faster. And then, of course, they have the scout line and step lancers, which have extra 30% HP by the Imperial Age. And then yellow, has the cheap calves. Strong camel archers, which are good against other mounted archers. So quite a nice setup. Actually, I will say here, we've got Berbers and Vietnamese. Vietnamese has anti-archer archers, as well as the Imperial skirmishers. And then we have Berber camel archers. Both of them excellent against a civ like Mongols, which are heavily dependent on cavalry archers. So quite a lucky matchup on the east side for Team South. Maybe I'll call them Team East. I seem to call it more. So Team East is behind in the score. We are behind both in the Vil count and military count. So we are behind, but we'll have to wait and see whether or not this matchup, whether or not Team East can take advantage of that matchup. Gray is already dropping a castle here next to his gold. Excellent move. Teal already has his castle up. And we see the other players here are also quite active. All right, so I think I've mentioned everything I wanted to mention. Of course, Berbers have Caspa, so Team Castles work faster. And of course, they have the Genitor as one of my favorite units. So we'll have to see whether or not that helps me or hurts me in this game. All right, so that's where we're at. Team West is ahead. And we see everyone is now in Castle Age. And Team West continues to move ahead in the score, but Team East has actually got pulled ahead in terms of the Vil count. which would make sense in terms of the cheap villages here and the 5 TC boom here. So we'll have to wait and see if Team East can take advantage of that. All right, so I'm just going to speed it up just a little bit here. All right, first little skirmish of the game, and we see these Genoese crossbows chasing this poor villager back home. Can she make it? I believe she does. But looks like purple might be hacking his way through his wall here, which is not too ideal. All right, so both the west side here, this has been walled off, as well as this borderline, and this one here as well. So you see we have and here and up there. So the entire back side of the base has been walled off. Not so on Team West. They have not walled off. A couple of walls here between, starting to go up, but they have not finished those walls. All right, so a little bit of raiding here, but 2 kills, not bad, not bad. All right, so I did consider hunting them down here with these Gulams, so an anti-archer infantry civ that the Hindustani have. I thought about chasing them down, but we see they're running away now, and we decided, no, we're not gonna reveal our hand. We don't want them to see what we have, and so we are going to not engage. And so I did pull them back here. Red here going for a very ambitious gold mining operation. I guess that's smart to kind of preserve his gold for later on. But Gray beginning to build up his force here. All right, so we are beginning to see a couple folks going into Imperial. Actually, all 8 players are now going up to Imp. So we will have to see not very much raiding at all in the castle and feudal, except for a couple tiny sparks there, but nothing really beyond that. All right, blue dropping the kind of advanced castle, and is now dropping also an outpost. I did not see that, to kind of keep an eye and see what orange has for him. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Yeah, so Team East is 40 villagers ahead, beyond in the military, so it looks like Team West will be pushing first. We have Mangadai over here and Genoese crossbows on this side. So pretty powerful builds, and green is dropping all kinds of stables here. So, and what's this? The 4th and final relic that teal needs. No, what am I talking about? The 5th. He's got a 5th relic. He already has his 4. So, okay, so red did manage to deny this castle, at least for the time being. Just as I say that, Leitis come running in, and they already have +5 attack, and so unfortunately red is gonna have a hard time denying this for long, and it looks like red is actually struggling here. And he is deciding to fight back with his vills, and somehow they take down 2 ladies, but that is not gonna cut it, although yellow does try to counteract. Alright, so Team East has now pulled ahead in the score. So I did mention that there'd be many back and forths, and so this is probably the first one. I think Team West has been ahead in the score until now. We'll have to see how long that lasts. Team West is getting ready for an attack. So we see pretty heavy trebs here. Not too many trebs on the other side, if any. Oh, orange does have a few. And so we have the beginnings of the Treb War happening here. So yellow building an impressive cavalry force. He has 13 camel archers. Elites already. Elite camel archers. Don't believe anyone else has elite units yet. Gulam's not elite. So red here as Vietnamese has he already has the Imperial skirmishers, and he's going to go out and engage this Mongol force, but he does lose the castle. So here we go, the first, I would say, major pitched battle here. At the same time, we see that blue and green are knocking on the door. Here we have the Savars, the beautiful, majestic new Persian unit from the latest expansion, or rather the latest expansion with new civs, the Mountain Royals. This is quite a scary force here. Elite Leitis +6 attack. Elite no, not Elite Mangudai. What am I talking about? Versus yeah, I think it's I think they have the edge here, even though we have counters. But on the other side, we have Elite Boyars coming to give Team West a run for their money. So we will have to keep an eye on that. Purple kind of absent so far, but Elite Gulam, the Elite upgrade, did come in. Alright, so we see the Team East is about 90 villagers ahead, but 30 military units behind. So we'll have to see if Team West can take advantage of that window that they have a larger military force right now. Oh, unfortunately, not too many Gulams make it to the archers. Took down one. These Savars come in the nick of time and are wreaking havoc on these Gulams. Orange, though, is dropping a castle, and we see these camels coming in. And unfortunately, we are witnessing which can only be described as a bit of a massacre here. These elite skirmishers are going down. They have been surrounded and are no more. Yellow trying his best to arrive, but unfortunately the damage has been done, and Team West has very effectively taken advantage of their combined armies and unfortunately caught Red exposed. But on the west side, Team East is having a bit more luck, and you see the camels coming in here, heavy camels. Not fully upgraded yet, but slowly increasing in numbers. Team West has been held at bay. But unfortunately, the same cannot be said. So Team East is actually still ahead in the score, and I think it really comes down to the economy. Even though they're behind 40 military units, so they are actually outnumbered on the battlefield, they have a heavy economy advantage at the moment. So again, there's now a window for Team West to defeat Team East on the battlefield because they have greater military numbers, and to take advantage of that before Team East can convert that economic advantage into a military one. So these Leitis, how many are there? 57 coming in, and unfortunately Red has too few halbs at this moment, and once again a Arbalester force is surrounded. But Yellow is trying to take out Siege here from behind enemy lines, and with his elite camel archers is engaging these Mangudai, which is a great exchange for Yellow. But unfortunately Leitis come in and Yellow was forced to retreat, and Gray maintains 5 of his trebs, so Red is really hurting here. He does have this wall here though, which is gonna keep this part of his base safe, but unfortunately that is Red's base is hurting badly. On the other end though, Purple and Gray are winning this battle here, this engagement, are taking out those Savars with those elite Boyars, which are now fully upgraded, and Team West is being pushed back here. So a little bit of a response to the setbacks on the east side, and with any luck, Team East can take advantage of this and push back Team West at the same time that they're hurting here. So maybe they can counterbalance that and take advantage of that. So Gray does take down, or Orange does take down this castle, and we are on the attack. So this is where I thought, okay, maybe I can find a way to sneak in. Maybe some innocent soldier is going to let in my raiding force and I can do some damage to Team West's economy. So we'll have to see if I find a way to sneak in. Trying to steal some gold there. But things are kind of looking rough here on the eastern side of the map. So Yellow is holding his own, taking advantage of a nice choke here. But Red's base is going down, and the question is, can Teal force his way through into the next compartment of Team East? So, and he does. He slips in and continues his raiding, and Red's vill count continues to drop. And so Team East is definitely hurting. Purple not finding anything useful to raid. In fact, kind of ends up bumping into some castles. We'll have to see if he can find a way in. And Orange's epic Boyars continuing to give these Savars a tough time, and these Savars are forced to retreat. But blue manages to drop a castle inside of orange's base. We don't really care too much though, just because we have those 4 castles here. We do have plenty of castles to back up the base here. Alright, so yellow absolutely doing overtime here and manages to kill those Leitis forces, and the hurt is stopped. But we see here the stats are beginning to switch, and Team West is slowly moving ahead. But purple does make it in, and so while red has been raided so hard, purple manages to get a raid in on gray. Green and orange continue to play a kind of game of chess, dodging each other's forces and trying to get the most advantageous engagement. But we'll have to see whether or not which side gets the upper hand. Alright, so by this point we were talking via chat, voice chat, and I did become aware of how badly things were kind of looking on this east side. And so purple begins, so that's me here, begins to send reinforcements. But I won't lie, it is tough to kind of keep your eye on 2 front lines. And so I'm keeping my eye on this side here, which I consider to be the main side I'm supposed to support. Of course, we did need to you need to be flexible and support where you're needed. So this raid does get concluded. Some extra fertilizer there for the farm, apparently. Unfortunately, some dead horses. Sorry, horses. Alright, so this is a tough engagement here because so we have 3 players, purple, yellow, red, trying to fight his way back, but these Leitis are just so absolutely bonkers strong and are just killing everything in sight. And Team West has now moved ahead, so it was kind of switching back and forth there, but with red down to 46 vills and having lost his main base here, Team West has pulled ahead. So it is in some ways a 4 versus 3 now. Team West has really managed to pull ahead, and in fact they even have the economy advantage. They have 30 extra vills than Team East. So Team West has the economic advantage, more villagers, more military units, overall are in a stronger position right now. And some absolutely bonkers showdowns happening here. Yellow kiting his forces very effectively. Purple, not so much. I think I was not looking here. My attention must be elsewhere, because I do believe I leave my troops here to die an unfortunate death. So that's the end of those Genitors. Of course, a cheap unit, but it would have been nice to have kept them alive. And so the military deficit continues to grow, and Team West has over 80 more units, around 80 more units right now than Team East. So really a tough spot here for Team East. We're behind economically. Nope, we just went back to the advantage, but remains very close. So Team East definitely on the back foot here. So the question is, can Team East somehow reverse the tide and stop this? Well, what did we see here? Blue tried to drop a castle, and orange saw it in time, thanks to these outposts and that we have all over the map. So we do have some pretty nice visibility here, and we can see when a castle gets dropped, and orange is able to deny that castle. Alright, so once again, the Savar-Boyar duel just continues never-endingly. But orange does an amazing job of taking advantage of his castles, his cheap Detonit's castles here. He's dropped 4, I believe, or 3. A couple of purple castles here as backup. I built them a bit conservatively because I did not want them to be lost by being too close to the front line. But yeah, Team West is just on fire right now. Look at this. 84, 83 Leitis units. That is just absolutely monstrous. They are just bulldozing their way through Team East here. Anyway, just like a hammer, just keeps whacking through. And there's a constant risk that they're going to find their way through one of these walls, as they did earlier, and just completely raid the economy of Team East. So there's a constant need to kind of wall up. Anytime we find our way, we hack our way through the walls, we do need to realize it and finish building the walls, because otherwise those Leitis are coming in. Alright, so we have Imperial Skirmisher from Purple, which came in, and Purple has a total of 24 of them. So slowly the force of Imperial Skirmishers is increasing. So ideally those can be used to somehow try to counter. Oh, I forgot that I had a castle here. That's great. I'm glad to see that my castle here slowed down the enemy advance. But unfortunately Red 73 vills but continues to hurt. But slowly building back up. Alright, so as much as Team East is hanging on and continues to have pretty good engagements, at least on the western side here of the map, things are looking dangerous. I mean, we've got these crazy Genoese crossbows, which are absolutely strong against cavalry. So there's a constant risk that we will no longer be able to hold the front line. But Team East has a plan, and we are definitely communicating here and hoping to fight some battles together. So it's all about having superiority in numbers in the specific engagement. If two armies catch one off guard, it can give the other side a huge advantage. And we've seen that Team West has done a good job of doing that so far. Oh, I kind of missed it, but we saw that once again through this entrance, a raid happened and Orange raided up there. Alright, so a little bit of a crazy engagement coming. More dancing over here, but here it is. So the Imperial Camels engage these Leitis. And we will have to see. We also have the Chattagny long range. Hand Cannoneers doing what they can. And look at that count of Leitis going down. It was over 80. It's now at 40. Half the number is gone. And Teal, despite having his 5 relics, his absolutely epic force, has lost his army, and Team East pulls away a victory here. Oh, here they are. Some more Orange raids happening up here, attacking the trade line. Alright, so I'll just pause it quickly here. I think it is a good moment to just kind of quickly compare the trade, as I was mentioning it earlier, and we see that Team West has started to trade, and so has Team East, but it looks like Team East may have a slight advantage in terms of how many carts they have. So I'm trying to find the actual count here. I'm not sure I'll be able to find the exact count. So how many carts they have on already trading, but it does look like Team East has a slight advantage, but Team West is trading, and so it certainly is not a foregone conclusion that Team East can maintain that trade advantage. So both teams are trading, and we see that Teal may have been hurt earlier by that battle, but he is not done, and he's still got 34 Leitis, and he's going to take care of these Boyars. Alright, and now we see that while this battle was happening here, Team East was doing a rebound. Team West has just tried to do another push down here, taken down one of the castles. And I do try to use these Genitours to focus fire on these Genoese crossbows. And I do believe that Team East is going to win this engagement. Or at least force Blue to pull back. Or maybe not. So as you can see, just so many back and forths. And talking back and forths, Team East, having been behind for the last 10 minutes, has now once again pulled ahead in the score. And so despite Red having been almost KO'd out of the game, Team East is once again ahead in the score. And we see that they have recovered their economy advantage, 50 vills ahead, and military advantage. So Team East is just ahead in every single way now, both in terms of villager count and in terms of military count. And Red actually is continuing to get his economy up and now has 83 vills. And if I'm not mistaken, he's maxed out. So Red is maxed out. Despite losing his base, he has completely recovered and he is back in action. So the onus is now on Team West to somehow reverse the tide and regain the advantage. They had it for a long time there. They really were continuing to push, but For whatever reason, Team East has managed to survive, and I think it's because their economy was ahead. Alright, so this is quite a wild engagement here. Teal does take down these trebs, but Team East does have enough range units that the Mongol is forced to retreat. And despite Blue's best efforts here, keeping these Genoese crossbows alive, they simply cannot push further. They're simply out of range of these trade cards. And Orange, just this wall of castles is still alive and just not going down, and keeps this Boyar force alive. A total of 45 Boyars, very impressive number. And Team West is simply not able to crack the code. They simply aren't finding a way. They're not really pushing, not really trying though. They're not, rather, oh, there is a hole here. That is incredible. So imagine if right now, we'll have to just see if they find that. But Green, if he just right clicks his units, if he just right clicks right now back here, the units will find a way in. All right, I'm just going to point this out here. For the first time ever, I have built some Caravanserais. And so what they do is they, in an 8-tile radius, they provide not only faster speed for these trade cards, which are now going 1.8 speed instead of 1.5, they also heal cards. So in the event that the trade line is raided, the cards will get healed as well. I think I did not get these ones up yet. I do have the other ones built, but not these ones. And so we see that Team East is able to take advantage of their trade bonuses. I just love how these hand cannoneers are still alive, doing whatever damage they can. Not really the unit to build against Mangadai, but that's what these Genitors are here for. So I ran them back here actually to try to focus fire on these Mangadai, and I'm very happy to see that they seem to be doing the trick. Alright, so Team East seems to have a commanding lead here, so we'll have to see if Team West can somehow reverse the tide and get themselves back in the game. I mean, they've closed the economy deficit somewhat. They're 20 bills, but look at that. In terms of military, they're over 100. Dude, they have half the army, and I think we're looking at a lot of it. This is Team West's army right here. On the other side, things are not looking good. Teal is down to 8 Leitis units. Remember, he used to have 80 down to 8. So we will have to see what can Team West do at this point to maintain, to keep themselves in this game and win the game. All right, so I do believe that both sides have now reached the post-imperial, and trade line is up and running. Looks to be a pretty good trade line here. All 4 players, I think, are trading. Everyone is trading with the exception of Blue. Not much trade from Blue. Blue does not have many units on gold. I think he has 2 units on gold, and that is too bad when you remember that he's Italian and has those cheap trade cards that he could be building. So it looks like he is not taking advantage of that Civ bonus, but he is going heavy on some kind of a drop here. Looks like it's a tower. So Team West does have a bit of an advantage on this front line here, but they are not really able to take down these castles. They don't really have any siege. So yeah, it continues to be a very close game though, despite Team East having the advantage. Very happy to see those Caravanserais now up and operational. So almost the entire trade line is now taking advantage of that, except here. But everything else is getting a bit of a speed bonus. And I won't lie, I'm a little bit proud of that, because it's one of those buildings that you never really, it's really hard to get around to taking advantage of. But thankfully, we have. Alright, so Team East continues to push that. Military count continues to be ahead, over 100, even though the bill count seems to be pretty much even. So yeah, so can this Mongol and this Lithuanian player somehow reverse the tide? And you know, it's interesting because Green I noticed that Team West is they're not really adapting their strategy. I think Savars are just not the unit for this location here. You know, they could have maybe gone for something a little bit different. I'm not sure. Maybe cav archers, maybe cavalry archers, Persian cavalry archers are not too bad, I believe. Could be wrong about that, but maybe siege, maybe halbs, something. But Savars, it's not really working against Imperial camels. It's not quite the unit to build. Definitely Team West is lacking siege units. Alright, but look at this. Team West has rebuilt their Leitis force somewhat. Their military count is back up. And they are trying to make a stand. And we see that Teal is taking advantage of those cheap trash units that Lithuanians have. Very happy to see that he is continuing to produce units. So blue building a couple trade units now, I believe, but not quite as many. 9, I believe he has, or maybe that's 4. I kind of mix up the numbers sometimes. Alright, so Team East putting the pressure up. Red, as I mentioned, completely back in force. Trade line not being raided or pressured at all. We'll have to wait and see if that stays that way. Does Team West still have some tricks up their sleeve? We'll have to see. Really funny to see that this was open here. I did not actually realize that during the game. And for the first time, I think in this whole game, Team West is now pushing forward on the Western Front here. And Blue has retreated. And it looks like we are just smashing our way through this entire game. It's been Team West which has been dropping castles and towers and continuously putting pressure on Orange. But right now, Team West doesn't really have an answer to this. But what's happening here? Oops, I think I may have missed part of this engagement. Look at that. Unfortunately, a lot of Yellow's camel archers were taken down. He might have been looking away at that moment. And this invincible gray wall of castles is now under threat. The last line of defense here before the trade line. But Team West is pulling all stops and is going in for the engagement. And here come both units. And once again, I think it's unfortunately happening. Red is once again has his force of archers too far ahead. They are a little bit exposed, so we'll have to keep an eye whether or not that force, what happens to that force there. Okay, gate is down, and purple, this is me here, very happily running in, ignoring everything, ignoring the castle, well, except this elephant and these cannons, but these forces are running ahead. And what's this? Red exposed once again with his archers, surrounded by hussars and Leitis. Yellow trying to help in any way he can, but these arbalesters have nowhere to run. Halbs coming in too late, and unfortunately we see here that the military count has come much closer as a result of this engagement there. So Team West has a pretty good victory here, and Team East, if I'm not mistaken, is forced to retreat now. But unfortunately, even though Teal and Gray having a very good engagement, winning a battle like in the good old times, unfortunately we do see that Purple here is able to find the trade line of Team West, and that is of course critical to keeping up the latest production of Teal. So we'll just have to see how Team West responds to that. And Orange continuing to pressure here the entire game. Finally, that's it. Finally, Green is building camels, which I believe are a counter to Boyars. Can be considered a counter to Boyars. And I believe that is a better unit to be building against these Boyars than the Savars, which have been having a really tough time the entire game against the elite Boyars that Orange has been building. Alright, well, look at this. Janitours to the rescue. These 19 Janitours are taking out trade cards left, center, and right, and Purple has found the trade line of Team West, and we see the gold count. A number of units spills on the gold count precipitously decreasing. hopefully Team West can see it in time to keep themselves in this game. So Team West is pushing forward here. They were able to push back the attack. And they're doing a pretty good job, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, Teal did move ahead with these skirms, takes out these cannons. Potentially a good move, but in the process loses most of his army. It's the last one, but Yellow still has all of these trebs. It looks like Team East will win this engagement unless Team West comes in with something unexpected. So, unfortunately, nobody sees this, and trade cards continuously go down, and the gold, even though Team West is still sitting on a decent amount of gold, they are going to have issues unless they find a way to destroy this little irritating force. And Green has seen it, and here they come, the camels. Is it in time? Is it in time to save the trade line of Team West? Well, I guess so. There still is a decent amount of trade happening, so, but unfortunately in a close game like this, every advantage is that you can get is of course worth a lot. And what's this? Orange, for the first time in this game, is sending Boyars across the map because Team West simply doesn't have any siege. And here come the elite Boyars. So we see red, yellow, orange. Until now, Gray and Teal have been able to hold the line with Leitis, and with Elite Mangadai have been able to keep yellow and red in check. But unfortunately, with a huge mass of Boyars, the balance is just tipped here. And Gray is going to have a really tough time holding that off. They did. Team West has cleared, though, this force of the raid there on their on the trade, but unfortunately, this wall of castles is now going down, and Gray is pulling back into his base, but he needs these castles to produce Mangadai. Teal still has a decent 40 Leitis. It's actually a very impressive force of Leitis still, but the combination of this is just absolutely brutal. Purple, not exactly the right unit to be building against pikes, but I don't really care. I've got a couple of hand cannoneers. I've got janitors, and I've got lots of gold, all kinds of resources. And I'm able to take that engagement fairly easily. And we see the first players here dropping out. Gray does leave the game. He loses his final castle. These Boyars, I guess you can really call them the coup de grace. They came in to give the final blow to Gray, who until now had been holding out so well against on this eastern front, and actually helped destroy red early on with Teal, with those amazing Mangadai units. But unfortunately, with orange coming in with those Boyars streaming across the map like a tide of destruction there, does tip the balance just a little bit too far, breaks the camel's back, so to speak, and Team East gives up on that side. And I am actually seeing here that Gray never did wall off here, so there's another gap there in the wall which they could have taken advantage of to do some raiding. So unfortunately, I think both teams, I guess, did not completely take advantage of all the gaps in the walls. It's always useful to just take some cavalry units, right click into the back of the base, and you never know, there might just be a way in that you did not realize. I tried to do it earlier, though. Actually, with that first raid, it did not work at all. Actually, no, it did work. I'm sorry, I have to correct myself. I did find a way in, so it didn't work out for green, but I did get into Gray's base. So getting those last little entrances walled off is of course important if you can manage. All right, so many wild things in this game. You see that Team West was still fighting up until the end. Blue trying to push here, but unfortunately did not have siege. Despite having a decent amount of gold, could have had some cannons, did not have them, unfortunately. And so purple here, I'm able to hold the line, even though I don't, Genoese crossbows and pikes against Imperial camels. The Imperial camels shouldn't be doing well, but of course they have backup by janitors and hand cannoneers, so I'm able to hold that off. Orange doing absolutely the right call. He sees that blue does not have siege, and he mentioned this during the game, or after the game, sorry, decides that, all right, I know that blue's not going to get anything done without siege, and so he decides to take his Boyars across the map and then plays that critical role there in turning the tide here in the battle here. But it's impressive to see that Teal, even at the very end of the game, still has, 43 Leitis. He actually never, Leitis kind of was, or sorry, Teal was kind of undefeated up until the end. And you see here, he went in for the engagement and actually probably would have won this engagement and probably would have managed to destroy these Trebs, but would have had a run for his money with these Boyars, and unfortunately Gray has lost 3 out of his 4 castles. I guess he still has one over there, so it would have been an uphill battle on that side. So yeah, Team East was definitely pulling ahead, but Team West, I guess I would even say this: Team West was not actually out of the game. They probably could have. They might have still had a chance. They were definitely. It was a disadvantage, but they may have been able to kind of pull through somehow. But yeah, it was a tough fight for sure. So yeah, just very impressive gameplay by all the players. Really loved just how strong Green was as a pocket player here. Those Genoese crossbows, absolutely scary. Teal's Leitis really were one of the highlights of the game for sure. And then Mongol, of course, doing what Mongol does. Amazing recovery from Red to be, almost KO'd at the beginning, but thanks to these kind of compartment walls, manages to rebuild his economy, gets back to 200 pop, and is right back into the fight. Despite those unfortunate surrounds, he still does manage to play a really critical role here in defeating Gray. And yeah, he's maxed out. Just so amazing play by Red there. Amazing recovery. Yellow, yikes. Look at these castles. 6 castles. Just a continuous fight there. So definitely, you can see here in the score here, definitely did great job of just not panicking. And we were actually able to do some coordinated battles there, which was pretty good, especially given we were behind in the score. I was pretty happy with how I played. As I already mentioned, really happy I got these Caravanserais down. First game to do it. It is a bit of a pain to build these things. I won't lie, to get the villagers over there and to build them. But once they're up, it does feel beautiful. They do kind of look a bit similar to universities, I think. Or not too similar, but I think potentially this was a misclick here, but or maybe that was my original university, but who knows. Orange, yeah, I just loved the way how he also never panicked, even though there was a hole in the wall, and he just kind of kept the enemy at bay and made sure that blue and green were never really able to break through. They never actually raided the trade line. They never were able to get through there. So yeah, just really great hold on the western side. And I love these outposts. It's always great to see. So yeah, just a really amazing game all around. Love the way the Civ picks played into the game. Was happy with the raids we were able to pull off, and you see that both teams kind of went back and forth there. I think there was one point that was probably the low point of Team East when Teal came all the way over here, but we were able to recover, so that was a great time. Let's just have a look at the stats here quickly. Did I miss anything? I don't think so. Yeah, I also really enjoy this map. Great map for long games and just generally close games. All right, Leitis here. Sorry, Teal. Sorry, I keep saying Leitis when I mean Teal. 1,100 kills, the highest kills in the game. Probably pretty far, actually. 300 more than the next up, which was Yellow, Tarhunt. And also had a really good kill to death ratio, I guess you could say. So yeah, very impressive. Grain played really well. I do think, though, I already mentioned that the Savar pick against the Orange Boyars, maybe not the best move, but great that he switched to camels at the end. I think if he had done that switch a little bit earlier, it would have done him would have been pretty good for him, I think, to have done it at that point. Yeah, and just really impressive. Every single player here played really solidly. I think that was just a really solid game from every single player. Probably could have had a larger army on my end here. I think I did delete a lot of villagers, but I had over 50 trade cards, and so it kind of took me a while to realize that I was in a good position economically and could delete more of my villagers. But I think all of our armies were kind of engaged at all times. Interesting to see that Red had the the largest army. This at the end. Okay, and then here, look at this amazing relic gold. That is quite wild. Really good for teal to have that much relic gold, but I think the trade profit really decided this game. It could maybe played a real role. So we see Tarhunt getting 33,000 in gold. I had 31,000 actually as well. Actually, everyone on our team, maybe exception of Red, but still had trade, so that's good. Everyone traded, but I think the fact that you had such a high trade definitely played a big role, and I'd like to think the Caravanserai had a little bit of an impact in increasing that. Oh, it looks like I had the most gold in the game somehow. I'm not sure how, but I guess it's the gold I pulled from the middle of the map. A little bit embarrassing here, but I did have 174 villagers at one point in the game. Maybe a bit of an exaggerated boom, but thankfully I noticed it quickly enough and was able to delete a large number of them so that I was able to support Orange for that first major engagement. At the end of the game, I only had 46, so at that point I'd realized I had a pretty big resource bank, and so I was able to delete a lot, but possibly could have done it slightly earlier. But yeah, it's kind of an art, maybe not a science exactly, but oh wow, look at that, 68 trade cards. That's a lot of that's great though at that point in the game. Yeah, it's one thing they always keep an eye on. I mentioned this I think in every single stream, which is that if you have 10 units, like 30 production buildings, and every single production building has 10 units queued, you have a little bit of a phantom bank, all these resources that are stuck in the buildings. So even if you don't, you may not realize how many resources you have just by the fact that you have so many units queued up. So yeah, absolutely great game. Really happy with how it turned out, and it was a great game after many other games that maybe were some games are a bit hit or miss. Unfortunately, that one game that went out of sync after the latest patch. It's too bad that I wasn't able to upload that, but glad that this game here kind of mitigates that just a little bit. So so I hope you folks enjoyed it, and I'll try to upload more games as in the next bit. But in the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed that game, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.